So, welcome everybody. My name is Paul Devlin. I'm the Trust Chair at Nottinghamshire Healthcare Foundation Trust. I'm joined with our Chief Executive, John Brewin, for a really important point for us as an organisation to recommit to the covenant that we have with our armed forces. I'm delighted that we joined on this call by a number of people. From outside the organisation, Bruce Spencer, who will be able to tell us a little bit about the importance of this for the organisation. And then from within the Trust, I'm really pleased that we've got both Angela Holland and Brian Bonner, who are reservists within the Trust, and they're going to be able to just share a little of their experience. And then Claire Teeney and Jackie Hogan are part of our People Directorate who support this particular programme. I think for me, it's a really important point for us. And as an organisation, we've been a strong supporter of reservists, but also supporting veterans and supporting active military and their families. It's something that we take very seriously. But alongside that, there's also a recognition with the Step Into Health pledge that we recognise that through the armed forces, we've got the potential of tapping into some really, really strong skill sets that bring a real value to us as an organisation. And that's a part of why I think it's really important that we take our steps of both recommitting and re-signing the covenant. I'm delighted that we're at the gold, we've reached the gold covenant stage, and by re-signing that, it's a very important statement. But also for us to recommit to our Stepping Into Health pledge, which is that piece about being able to draw the connections with those who have got that military experience that they can bring to us. So, Bruce, if I could just invite you just to say a few words from your perspective about what we're doing today, please.
Paul, thank you very much indeed, and I'm delighted to be here today. And for those that don't know, the Covenant is an agreement between the nation and the armed forces that the armed forces will be treated fairly. There's been a long history back across centuries where soldiers, sailors and airmen returning to the country have not been treated well, and after being discharged have not been treated well. This is a signature which not only defies that particular history, but it says where you're going to in the future. I think secondly, that what this is about resilience of the nation, because not only are you supporting soldiers, sailors and airmen that need treatment, you're supporting those in your workforce who are reservists. And it's very important because I think you above all will have seen the amount of resilience that's been required by the nation over the last 15 months or so. And much of that has come from the armed forces, and 2,500 reservists are mobilised even as we speak in support of the NHS pandemic. The pandemic with the NHS. So it's a really important moment, and I have to say, Paul, is testament to your position as a Gold Award winner of re-signing the covenant in public and making it public to show that this is not a flash in the pan. This is not something that you sign and is actually then cast over your shoulder. It's something you're carrying and you're taking with you, and you are continuing the gold standard. So I congratulate you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that commentary and feedback, Bruce. Angela and Brian, Angela first, I just wonder if you could just say a little about the experience of being somebody who's active in the military, but also a member of staff here.
Yes, thank you. I started in the Trust in January this year, so I'm quite new. And before I joined, I wasn't really aware of the support that you gave towards the armed forces. So I've been quite surprised, but really impressed with how public you have been in your support of the armed forces staff that you employ, but also for any potential employees out there as well. I think it's a really positive thing, and there are plenty of people with skills from the military and in the reserves that I think would find a really good home with Notts Healthcare.
That's great. Thank you, Angela. Thank you for all that you do for us. Brian, perhaps a similar response from you, please.
Yeah, I echo what Angela said entirely. Although I'm more a veteran these days than I am a reservist. I've sort of finished that about 6 years ago. But during my short time after coming out in Royal Air Force, I did get involved with helping resettle our servicemen and women back into civilian way of life. It was very challenging. But what I certainly am learning about NUTS is, and the trust, is how much they support our boys and girls who are coming out with time off, ability to develop, with the reserve commitment. And I think it's something to be very proud of, and something that I'm very, very passionate about.
Great. Thank you, Brian, and really appreciate your passion as well. It's a part of what helps us keep our focus.
Thank you.
Claire, I wonder if you want to say something on behalf of yourself and Jackie around the sort of the people side of it.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Claire Teeney. I'm the Director of People and Culture at Nottinghamshire Healthcare. I'm really thrilled that we're doing this today. We've had a connection at Nottinghamshire Healthcare with the armed forces for a number of years, for a variety of reasons. A number of our patients and service users are veterans, and so that's really important. So a number of our staff that don't have a personal association with the armed forces do through their work commitment. So I think that it's really important that we support our colleagues working with ex-servicemen and women, so that we're addressing some of the issues from a number of different perspectives, and we support our staff to work with those people. The other thing that's really important is that for people that are in the armed forces and are looking then to come into civilian life and access jobs, that we really harness the skills that people bring, but understand that actually there is a very big transition from being in the military to moving into a day or more routine job, and actually that requires a lot of support. And we've been on quite a journey working with people to try and get that right where we can, and I'm sure that there's still more that we can do. And another thing is about supporting, as Angela described, our reservists as well. That's really important. So we have enhanced our policies so that reservists can access extended time off to attend training and do other things as well. So we try and work in the most flexible way to support the armed forces in the best way that we can. And it's a plea really to say that if people are interested in coming to work with us as coming into civilian life, then we're really keen to hear from people. And we're also keen to say that if you are a reservist and you work with the trust, then you will have our absolute commitment and support. And if we are not getting it right, we encourage you to speak up and let us know, because actually that's how we've shaped what we offer today. So I think that that's really important, and we look forward to continuing with our commitment in terms of that. So yeah, thanks to everybody for your support back to us. And final thing, we also are really keen to ensure that we support the families of reservists and the families of serving personnel as well, even if they don't work directly with us as a trust. And I think that's a really important message that we're also keen to get across. So that's everything for me. But yeah, really pleased to be with you, and really keen that we continue to work together. Thanks.
Great. Thank you for that. John, we've got actual documents to physically sign. It's a delight that we're actually able to do that in a room together, even though we're observing social distancing pieces. Just before we put our signatures on, I just wondered if there's anything you wanted to add from your perspective as Chief Executive.
Yeah, thanks very much. John Brewin, Chief Executive, and thanks everybody for joining us today and for the words that you've shared with us. And I don't want to repeat too much really, but commitment and passion shines through, doesn't it? And hopefully our organisation's commitment does too. I was just thinking in terms of what I could add. I was thinking about our trust values, and there are three that leap out in terms of trust, respect and teamwork, which I think would echo across all of the military sectors and domains in terms of how powerful those values are that we hold close to our hearts and we live every day, those values, and because they're critically important in making a success of things. And I just think that really helps describe some of the commonality of what we do, even though that on the surface the functions of a large mental health and community trust can be very different from military and reservist work, but actually at the core there's an awful lot that we have in common. So I just wanted to identify that. And just in terms of also reflecting on the massive added value that we get from veterans and reservists working in our organisation, the experiences, the skill sets that they bring to complement our other work is immeasurable, and we're really pleased to continue to value and support and expand that, because at the end of the day it helps us be a better organisation and helps our broader staff family and our volunteers to learn from those experiences. And finally, it helps us on the more specifics in terms of the services that we provide for veterans, many of whom have very hidden and sometimes quite complex psychological difficulties. It puts us in a better place in terms of being able to finesse that offer to make sure that we can continue to provide the best help, care and support for them and their families that we can. So I'm delighted to be able to sign this today, Paul and colleagues, and it's a great thing for our organisation to be doing. Thank you.
Great. Do you want to go first?
Can I be first? I've got a very high quality fountain pen as the chair has, but I'll do my bit. So the first bit is the covenant, and the second bit is the step into health that I'm signing now on behalf, and then hand over those to you, Paul.
Thank you. So that's both of those signed, and I was saying to Jackie earlier on by email that these will get prominently displayed as well. I think it's a really important piece of us just being able to utilise this as part of our continued public commitment. So great. That felt really good. Bruce, thank you so much for joining us.
Paul, thank you very much for that. In part of the public display of what you're doing, I do need a scanned copy of those documents sent to me, because they then appear on the MOD website so that anyone can see them. And so if I can, Claire, perhaps you can arrange that to go to me. But finally, Paul, I know I made some points earlier, but Nottinghamshire has a very long history of military support. If I tell you that in 1914 that 19 battalions of Sherwood Foresters were formed in this county, that's 19,000 men, probably one of the biggest contingents that went off to war in 1914. That history of military commitment, that history of military support has not waned since then, and I see that it's deep in your DNA, and I thank you.
Thank you so much. And to Jackie, Brian, Angela, Claire, thanks for joining us. And particularly Brian and Angela, thank you for what you do in both for this trust and the services that you've given for the country as well, outside of the trust. So thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Huge thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you, Paul. Bye-bye.